Yoda shot lightning from the sky, and apparently the canon was ruined. However, I'm going to explain why Force ghosts don't fight. Now, since the canonical introduction of Force ghosts in the Clone Wars with Qui-Gon Jinn, there has been a lot of evolution with the Force ghosts and the way they have been portrayed. In the Clone Wars, Qui-Gon tells Yoda about passing on your spirit, but he was unable to physically appear. In the original trilogy, Obi-Wan originally only appears as a voice, but in The Empire Strikes Back he was able to physically appear, and in Return of the Jedi, he, Yoda, and Anakin were also able to physically appear. Flash forward 30 years, and in The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, Yoda, Luke, and Leia are able to physically appear as ghosts and interact with the physical world. Also, we hear the voices of other Jedi who definitely didn't know about becoming a Force ghost at the time of their death. With that being said, the big question that people have been asking is why can't the Force ghosts help during a fight? Since we see Yoda strike a tree with lightning, why couldn't he strike down Snoke or Palpatine with lightning? First, I want to talk about the original trilogy before I move on to the sequel trilogy. When it comes to this trilogy, one may ask why couldn't Obi-Wan be there to guide Luke during his fight with Vader in either The Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi? I mean, Obi-Wan was there to help out Luke during the Battle of Yavin, so is this a plot hole? Well, that's up for you to decide. But when it comes to physically being able to touch or impact the physical world, one can argue that Force ghosts just didn't know how to do that yet. Qui-Gon was dead for 12 years before he knew how to manifest his voice to Yoda, so maybe there's some aspect of being a Force ghost that takes time and training. With The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, the Force ghosts now have the ability to interact with the physical world. This to me just seemed like a natural progression of the abilities that a Force ghost can have. Over those 30 years, maybe the ghosts learned more about the Force to where they could finally learn how to interact with the physical world. When Obi-Wan said he could become more powerful than Vader could possibly imagine, he had to have known the powers of the Force ghosts. But with this newfound power brings up the big question. Why didn't Yoda or Luke help fight in the sequel trilogy? Could Yoda have just struck down Snoke in The Last Jedi? Maybe, but I feel those who ask this question really miss the point of what the light side of the Force, and more importantly what being a Force ghost represent. Being a Jedi is all about love, compassion, and most importantly, peace. If you look at the deaths of the Jedi who we see become Force ghosts, their last moments of life are always in peace. I think the best examples of this are with Ben and Leia in The Rise of Skywalker. When Leia dies, she doesn't automatically disappear. This is because she has not made peace yet. However, when Ben dies as an agent of the light side, she's able to die in peace as well. So given that being a Force ghost means you must be in peace, going back and fighting in a war is definitely not peaceful. So that is probably the best reason I could give, going off what's simply in the canon. But I do feel there is a lot more to discuss when it comes to Force ghosts and the religious background Star Wars is based off of. Being one with the Force has always seemed to be like going to heaven. People who follow the light side of the Force can go to heaven, while those who live on the dark side don't go to heaven, but I don't really think it's that simple. When you look at someone like Anakin, he definitely had no knowledge of becoming a ghost during his life, yet he became one anyway. To me, this says that there is a lot more about the afterlife of the Force than what we know. Anakin, after his death, was probably greeted by Obi-Wan, who helped him in some capacity to become one with the Force. My interpretation of Leia's death was that she wanted to wait for her son before entering the afterlife, so the two of them could go together, filled with love and happiness. Somehow the voices of a handful of Jedi were able to speak to Rey. Maybe their spirits were somehow saved by Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon after they died. My point is that there is so much we don't know that there may be some valid reason why ghosts can't interfere. I mean, Obi-Wan literally tells Luke in The Empire Strikes Back that he cannot interfere. Why not? Well, we're never given an answer, and honestly, I don't want one. The great thing about the Force is how mysterious it is and how little we actually know. That's why people got pissed at the concept of midichlorians, because it demystified the Force. If Lucasfilm decided to give a reason why Force ghosts can or cannot interact with the real world, but not interfere with fights, that would take away so much from the mystery of Star Wars. Do we really want that? Do we want the Force to be something scientific rather than fantastical? I sure don't. One last thing I want to address is the purpose of Force Ghosts. From a narrative perspective, Force Ghosts can only serve the role of guiding those in need of help. When Luke caught that lightsaber in the Rise of Skywalker, he did it so he can help motivate Rey in her fight against Palpatine. People like to forget that Star Wars is a fairy tale, not the real world. Serving as a spirit passing on advice is extremely important in mythology. Mythology isn't always supposed to make sense, but it is supposed to pass on life lessons and themes, which Star Wars does. Force Ghosts are not meant to fight, they're supposed to guide others in their fight. If Obi-Wan just defeated Vader and the Emperor in Return of the Jedi, then Luke would have never faced his greatest challenge. As Luke said in The Rise of Skywalker, 1,000 generations live in you now, but this is your fight. That was Rey's time to face her demons, not Luke or Leia's. Star Wars is about different generations of people facing evil, not ghosts facing evil. And that is the reason why Force Ghosts don't fight.